Joining you as well. Joining me now, Jonathan Turley, constitutional law attorney and Fox News contributor. Jonathan, good to have you on this breaking news as we are going through the release of the documents, which obviously is an area of great interest to a lot of folks out there. This Epstein file conversation that Ghislaine Maxwell had with Todd Blanche and the other attorneys. What's your take so far on what you've learned here?
Well, this is a terrible buzzkill for most of the media in this town. I think that anything short of a picture of Trump with the entire cast of the Rockettes would have been disappointing, given all of the media and speculation saying that he was a perfect gentleman, or I didn't see any even massages going on. It's not what many in this town had hoped for. There's been this narrative that Trump has engaged in everything from the Ukraine to cracking down on crime in D.C. as a distraction of what Maxwell was going to reveal. So there is that dynamic. The fact is that there's nothing that has been so far revealed that would indicate that there was a major failure to prosecute an individual. You know, this starts out with a discussion of daddy issues by Maxwell, the type of thing you would normally hear in a pre-sentencing hearing with a judge, saying that, you know, there are mitigating factors here. It's clear that she wants some type of deal. She already has a bit of an upgrade in where she is currently incarcerated. But, you know, you talked about a type of reduction of sentence motion. And that ordinarily doesn't occur unless you have far more substantial cooperation, like testifying at a trial. Any type of commutation, let alone a pardon, would unlikely come until the end of Trump's term. So far, this has not moved the news story that much, with the exception of being that sort of Sherlock moment of the dog not barking and what you can take from that.
Yeah. She makes some comparison in here to the Epstein list being something like a Salem witch trial. What do you take away from that, Jonathan?
Well, the list is probably the most newsy aspect so far. You know, there has been this speculation that there's this hidden list, the insurance policy that was being held, and that she would be the most likely custodian of that list. She just outright says that list doesn't exist, and I actually think I know how that rumor began. That's a major blow for many people that have been trying to build this narrative. The Democrats in Congress have been particularly hammering on this in answering some of the controversies recently. They just keep on saying, I'm not going to address that because this is all an effort to hide the Epstein matter and the possible release of this list. Well, she's saying there isn't any list that she knows of.
You know, given the FBI investigation and the things that were taken out of his home and you know, all of what was understood to be in terms of the traffic coming in and out of there, based on the testimony of the young women who claimed that they were basically, you know, sold off to these different people, including Epstein, during their time working as, you know, massage girls. Does it strike you as credible that there's no list, no documents, no diaries, no journals that sort of document who these people were?
Well, I have to say that, you know, Epstein appears to have cultivated powerful men by offering up these girls. And the assumption was that he would want a deliverable, something that he could hold over these individuals for influence. Now, it is possible that he felt he had enough influence by simply making these girls available to these individuals. So it is possible that there isn't any list. But the question is really, you know, whether Maxwell is gaming the system. I think you have to assume that she is. She's in a very desperate situation and she wants to offer something up. But, you know, part of, I think the critics will come forward and say she knew that the only shot she has is really a presidential commutation, and that's only going to come if she clears Donald Trump. Well, you can certainly speculate to that. It's also possible there's nothing to clear. right? It's also
Right.
possible that
Yeah.
there's
And
no there, you know.
and she said early on that that there wasn't any list, so to speak. Epstein, now she's saying that Epstein and anyone else who was involved in these friendships never saw President Trump do anything inappropriate. I mean, obviously, this is going to be something that will not really surprise President Trump, who has said this all along. And for all of these years, under the FBI, under the Biden administration, when all of these documents and things that they were going through with regard to these files didn't seem to yield that either. And then you have a lot of people who believe that there is this huge conspiracy to cover up these individuals, and they're, really railing at this whole system. What do you think is going to be the response with folks who have just never been satisfied on this front and believe that they're not being told the truth here?
Well, those people are not going to change. And the fact is that this is a town that's addicted to conspiracies, and but also people have fixed interests here. Epstein is a shiny object at a time when you need a distraction. But the key to remember is that this is the most ubiquitous figure in all of these photos. She's always there. I mean, she seemed inseparable from Epstein. So she is a valuable witness. I was floored when her counsel told me that she had never really been interviewed by prosecutors. And I was so skeptical at that. I required multiple lawyers to confirm that to me. So it is interesting.
Why would that be, Jonathan? Why wouldn't they have all, interviewed her every which way?
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's that old expression, don't ask a question you don't know the answer to. And God knows some of the answers coming out of Maxwell could very likely be disturbing for your interest. But I don't know why prosecutors, state or federal, did not want to get her down on the record as to what she knew, what she saw. I think that's one of the unanswered questions here. But in terms of what she knows, she is saying here that she doesn't know much at all in terms of further incriminating information. Now, she probably does have some nasty stuff with regard to other individuals. I'm sure she did see some massages occur. But, from what we see here, this is not what the opposition has been hoping for.
Agreed. And, certainly what she's saying about President Trump, as I said, will not surprise him because it's what he has said all along. But, excuse me, we have to remember the testimony of these young women that the jury found compelling enough to convict Ghislaine Maxwell about what she did and the role she played. One of them said, he was just Pinocchio. She was Geppetto. In other words, she was pulling the strings on this operation of bringing these young girls in to conduct massages. And then they claim it went much further than that. Think about the Prince Andrew testimony as part of this as well. You have to, I think, continue to keep in mind what she's saying today and what this jury found based on the testimony of the young women.
No, I think that's right. And look, Maxwell is, in my view, the most interesting character in this awful drama. I mean, Epstein was just a pedophile and a creep. So were many of his friends. Maxwell has this bizarre history where she was the daughter of a media magnate who had his empire collapse, leaving her with very little. She finds a safe harbor with this guy Epstein, and then she facilitates these horrible encounters and transits for young girls. She was convicted of being a facilitator of the most heinous types of crimes. It's not just a fall from grace. It's someone who seemed to leave humanity aside as she sort of embraced Epstein. Now, in this interview, she sort of alludes to that with the sort of, I have father issues and I found Epstein. That's not going to cut it. Lots of people have father issues and they don't become transporters of young girls in sex traffic operations.
Yeah, exactly. Jonathan, thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.